to the Paramedic Chiefs of Canada webinar. I'm Todd Stout with First Watch. Thank you for your patience with me. I look forward to this incredible webinar. It's one of the most well-attended webinars already at 2 minutes after the top of the hour, so that's pretty impressive. We at the Paramedic Chiefs of Canada Membership Services Committee are honored to host these webinars, and First Watch is happy to help. This is a twofer in that it's really a research committee webinar hosted by them and us together, and we're happy to do it. I'd like to introduce the illustrious Kevin Smith, President of the Paramedic, or perhaps Prime Minister of the Paramedic Chiefs of Canada.
Thanks, Todd. I appreciate that. And thanks, everyone, for joining us today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kevin Smith, and I am the President/Prime Minister of the Paramedic Chiefs of Canada. The mission of the PCC is really to advance and align paramedicine in Canada by providing a national voice for the profession, thought leadership, change influence, and knowledge exchange. And one way that we achieve this goal is through these bi-monthly webinars, which really focus on leadership and research to support the advancement of paramedicine in Canada. And if you're joining us today as a member of the PCC, thank you. And for those of you who are interested to learn more about the PCC, you can find out more at paramedicchiefs.ca on our website. And of course, there you'll also find a link to your provincial board member if you'd like to connect with them directly. As Todd mentioned, this meeting is being recorded and it'll be linked on our website for members to access for future viewing. And I should also remind everyone to hold the dates for the 2025 PCC Leadership Summit. That's being held June 10th to 12th in the wonderful city of Winnipeg, Manitoba. And with that, I would like to thank Nikki Little and the PCC Membership Committee, as well as Jan Jensen and the PCC Research Committee, and to our valued partner, First Watch, for hosting today's session. I'd now like to hand things over to Carla Roy, member of our PCC Research Committee, to introduce today's speaker. Carla.
Thank you, Kevin. As Kevin mentioned, my name is Carla Roy, and I'm a member of the PCC Research Committee, which consists of researchers from across Canada who have an interest in paramedicine research. On behalf of the committee, we'd like to welcome everyone. We are thrilled to welcome Thérésa Choisi. Thérésa is a researcher advisor at Urgent Santé, the largest ambulance service in the province of Quebec, and a fellow with the McNally Project for Paramedicine Research. She holds a bachelor's degree in health sciences and a master's in experimental health science. She has more than 13 years of experience in the pre-hospital sector as a former emergency medical dispatcher, team leader, instructor, and EMDQ. In addition to co-coordinating the research program at Urgent Santé, she is currently the principal investigator of the Public Health Agency of Canada funded project, Preventing Burnout by Predicting Compromised Wellness among EMS Workers, also known as the Preburn Project. This is what she will be speaking on today. I'd also like to note that in 2024, Thérésa won the top EMS Research Award from the Dalhousie University Division of EMS for when researchers become victims, the psychological toll of emergency interventions on paramedics and emergency medical dispatchers. Her research interests include 911 call taking and dispatch operations, mental wellness of healthcare workers, and quality of care. Please join me in welcoming Thérésa.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, Carla, and thank you to the organizer for this opportunity. So thank you all for joining today's webinar. I am really excited to share insight from the Preburn Project. It's really a data-driven initiative focused on preventing burnout and improving mental wellness among EMS professionals. So our discussion today will cover why mental health matters in EMS, the prevalence of burnout, and how predictive models can help mitigate risk before they escalate. So let's get started. I was planning to give a little bit of information about myself, but Carla did such a great job that I don't need to. So here is an overview of what we're going to cover today. First, we will discuss why mental health is a critical issue in EMS. Then we'll explore the problem of burnout and its impact on EMS professionals. I introduce the Preburn study, its methodology and key findings. We'll then move on to practical applications and how predictive model can be used to support EMS workers. Finally, we'll discuss the broader implication and future perspective before opening the floor for questions. So mental health is not just the absence of illness, but a state of well-being where individuals can cope with stress, work effectively, and contribute to their communities. According to the World Health Organization, maintaining good mental health is fundamental to our overall well-being. In the EMS field, where workers are exposed to high-stress situations daily, mental health plays a crucial role in performance and patient care. EMS professionals are a critical component of the pre-hospital care chain. Emergency medical dispatchers, EMDs, are often the first point of contact, managing distressing emergency calls. Paramedics, on the other hand, they provide direct care in high-pressure environments. The nature of their work makes them particularly vulnerable to mental health challenges, including burnout. In 2019, the World Health Organization officially classified burnout as an occupational phenomenon resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. Burnout is characterized by three main symptoms: emotional exhaustion, cynicism or depersonalization, and reduced professional effectiveness. These symptoms can significantly impact both personal well-being and job performance. Burnout is not an isolated issue. It is widespread across healthcare professions. A study analyzing 65,000 healthcare professionals across 12 countries found burnout rates ranging from 54% to 78%. This is a lot. This is mind-blowing to me. A Polish study performed among 553 EMDs from 14 public safety access points, which is the equivalent of a comm center, I'll put it this way, also shown high rate of employee at high risk of burnout, professional inefficiency, and disappointment. If you look at the paramedic side of things, a Spanish study and an American literature review also shown that paramedics experience significant burnout, with studies estimating prevalence rates between 16% and 56%, which is still a lot for people who are supposed to take care of others. It's, like I said, it's mind-blowing to me still. Given the severity of these figures, I think it's really imperative to really explore solutions to mitigate this risk. So why EMS workers are at high risk? I think those who work in the field can give many answers to this question. And I kind of try to summarize on this slide the reason why. EMS professional works long and irregular hours under intense job demands. They often lack psychological support. According to some organizations do have program, wellness program, and all of that. Some doesn't, and face emotional burdens due to exposure to traumatic events. These factors, I believe, could contribute to high burnout rates and make it essential to identify and implement preventive strategies. The question that we have to ask ourselves after that is to understand how we could actually identify burnout. One of the most commonly used tools to assess burnout is the Malach Burnout Inventory, the MBI. This is a 22-item questionnaire. It actually evaluates emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, and personal accomplishment. I don't think I mentioned it before. Even though burnout is considered as a syndrome, it is not a diagnosis. So we have to keep in mind. If you consider Malach to screen paramedics of EMS, because there are different versions of this questionnaire. You have version for teachers, you have a version for human resources, and you also have version for the medical field as well. There is still, I will say, limitation for using this, because is still a questionnaire that somebody have to fill. And most of the time, if you implement this kind of solution, you might face low response rates and you have an increased administrative burden on anybody working in the wellness program or human resources. The other aspect that we have to consider is the fact that the focus is after the burnout actually already developed, rather than on prevention. I believe that when you're at the stage where you're screening the person probably for burnout is because the person already displaying so much signs and symptoms that you're in the path for a diagnosis. So that's mean it's probably too late already for any kind of prevention. So what I think is a better way to do it is of reacting to burnout after it occurs is to have a proactive solution. And by using data-driven approaches, we can identify risk early, provide support, and prevent psychological injuries before they escalate. And this shift from intervention to prevention is the foundation of the Preburn Project. So how can we proactively prevent or mitigate burnout? Burnout is a significant challenge in EMS, but by implementing proactive strategies, we can help reduce its impact and support the well-being of our teams. This slide basically outlines 5 key pillars that I believe is the right approach to burnout prevention and mitigation. First, early detection and risk prediction. This is where actually the Preburn Project sits. The first step is really to address burnout early in terms of identification. So for data-driven wellness monitoring, screening, and feedback loops, we can detect probably warning signs before burnout fully develops. And by leveraging this insight, we can implement targeted intervention that support the teams or the person at the right time. The second pillar is the workload management and organizational support. A well-structured work environment plays a crucial role in mitigating burnout. These include reasonable work hours. We also have to think about administrative support and flexible work policies that will allow EMS professionals to maintain a healthier work-life balance. The third is the psychological support and resilience training. I believe that providing access to mental health resources along with mindfulness and stress reduction techniques will equip EMS workers with the tools they need to cope with the unique challenges of their profession. Resilience and coping skills training further will enhance their ability to manage stress effectively. I often take this comparison when you're a new mom and you just deliver a baby at the hospital. Actually, they will ask you, what is your plan in case this is too much? In case the baby is crying too much, you don't know what to do. Who are you going to call? What are you going to do? They basically try to educate you and to prepare you for what's coming ahead, probably, maybe or maybe not. But at least you had the time to have a conversation with yourself and decide what will be your plan. Nobody, when they hire me as an EMD, actually asks me, if you had a bad call, what are you going to do? Who are you going to call? What are the signs that you have to look for? I think maybe some organizations do have this now, but I think education and training is important to build your resilience. The fourth pillar is to have stronger team and leadership support. A culture of support within every institution is really important and essential to encouraging open communication, supportive leadership, and supervision will really foster a workplace where employees feel heard and valued. Additionally, recognition and appreciation programs will probably help boost morale and job satisfaction. So if you feel like you're a value member of the organization, of the pre-hospital response and everything in between, I believe there is part of yourself that will feel better about going to your job every day. The fifth pillar is to have a proactive culture shift in every EMS agency. To make lasting changes, we really need to embed a wellness first culture at both the workplace and system levels. This means advocating for policy changes, increasing burnout awareness through education, and ensuring that mental health remains a priority in every single EMS agency. Mental health exists on a continuum. How does it start? Individuals function optimally, but stress can lead to compromised mental wellness. Without intervention, this can progress into a full burnout, leading to emotional and physical exhaustion. Understanding this continuum allows us to develop strategy for early intervention. We believe that the right moment to make sure that you actually detect high-risk workers is to act where they show sign of any compromised mental wellness. If you wait for them to have sign of burnout, this is no more proactive solution or proactive approach. This is basically a post situation. The person already have injuries and you're trying to provide support. But I think the best is to avoid the situation where they will put a knee down. So now I'm going to talk more about the Preburn Project, which really target predicting and preventing mental health risk among EMS workers. For your information, the project was funded by the Public Health Agency of Canada and has ethical approval from McGill University. While I'm here presenting today, I want to make sure that I just want to make sure to tell you that I am just one part of a dedicated multidisciplinary team, and the Preburn Project brings together experts in public health, psychology, epidemiology, emergency medicine, human resources, and data science. We all work together to tackle burnout in EMS. So, the Preburn study aimed to better understand and prevent compromised mental wellness among emergency medical dispatchers and paramedics. To achieve this, we focused on several key objectives. The first was really the characterizing workers at risk. So we analyzed factors such as demographics, professional conditions, workload, turnover rates, and stress indicators to identify patterns among those diagnosed with compromised mental wellness. We also focused on linking mental well-being, mental well-being to 911 calls and patient encounters, pre-hospital situation. We believe that by identifying the types of call and situation most associated with distress, we aim to pinpoint specific operational stressors. We also wanted to use the information that we collected to develop predictive models. So we work on building predictive models that can detect the signs of mental health deterioration before they escalate. It was nice to have model, but what is really practical is to have a monitoring tool, a risk prediction tool. So using this model, the goal was to develop a kind of a real-time surveillance tool to help identify at-risk workers proactively. After building that tool, we also need to validate it against traditional assessment. This is where we plan to compare. We are currently comparing our tool effectiveness with the Managed Burnout Inventory auto test to ensure its reliability and accuracy. Our study really focused on the metropolitan ambulance service area covering 744 square kilometers, serving 2.5 million of people. They employed about 1,000 paramedics and 112 EMS, EMD. On this slide, I want to outline the methodology of the Preburn Project, which was conducted in 2 phases. In phase 1, we follow a nested case control study design using data from 2015 to 2022. We categorize EMS workers into 2 groups. Cases, they are actually individuals diagnosed with compromised mental wellness by a doctor. So when I'm saying compromised mental wellness, it's any mental health disorder that was diagnosed by a doctor that actually bring that person to be on sick leave, and controls where an individual who did not receive a diagnosis in the last 6 months. The study leveraged a database of insurance claims to extract relevant data. Matching was performed based on diagnosis date to ensure comparability between cases and controls. We then extract data from multiple sources, including human resources records, insurance claims, the computer-aided dispatch data, and the patient care reports. This really allows us to develop predictive model and conduct statistical evaluation to identify risk factors associated with mental health issues in those EMS professionals. We present a preliminary result to the wellness department so they can give us the green light to continue on phase 2. Phase 2 focused on developing a risk prediction tool based on the findings from phase 1. We recruited also EMDs and paramedics to validate the tool. So the tool effectiveness was then compared to the MBI to assess its predictive accuracy. So we believe that this is a way to integrate the real-world data and predictive analytics. And I believe the methodology allows us to move beyond the traditional burnout screening and toward a more proactive, data-driven mental health intervention. Here, I wanted to kind of summarize the key variables that we analyze to assess the 3 core components of burnout: emotional exhaustion, like I mentioned before, depersonalization, and the reduced professional effectiveness, the lack of performance. So what we do, we really examine workload-related factors, including call history, total number of sick days, overtime hours, and lateness. These indicators, I believe, reflect the job strain and chronic stress level as well. We look at operational stressors to know in which condition the paramedic or the EMD was evolving, such as the shift tip, where you're working nights, days, evening, the number of ambulances available, because the less they have, the more the workload you will have, the number of calls you receive during your shift, because our outcome center easily have over 1,000 calls every day. So according to how many people are working at the same shift than you might have to deal with more shift than another shift that you had the next day. Now, we really focus on the factors that can influence also the fatigue and some of them the detachment from your work as well. We also consider the experience-related data, because everybody is different. So we have to have information about the demographic in terms of years of experience, previous diagnosis, and patient demographic as well in terms of who were the patient you had to deal with or handle over the phone, how serious their condition was at the time. And I want to point out at this point that those data are data that you can also find in the police department, in the fire department as well. There is no data that will say that you cannot replicate in another type of EMS service. I mean, we are all in the public kind of safety field, and what we use what we use within Preburn can be found in other type of services. So we believe whatever discovery we make, we can actually do the same in another type of field, such as the fire department. For the statistical analysis, we really ensure that we accurately capture trend across these variables. So every continuous variable, we're looking at the mean difference. We're tested using a t-test. Overall, we're using a Welsh, I can't pronounce that, I'm sorry, with my French accent, Welsh t-test. I think I got it right. And the categorical variables, we use Pearson Kickwell's test with yes correction for continuity. All of it to say we were serious and rigorous in the way we were dealing with the statistic analysis. So if we start with the result now, this slide provides an overview of the data set used in our analysis. We initially obtained data for 479 paramedics cases and 92 emergency medical dispatchers for the period of the 7 years that the study was covering, along with their respective control groups, because don't forget, we want to compare cases with controls. After applying exclusion criteria, such as removing invalid diagnoses, cases with missing call history, and duplicate records, we really refined our dataset. The final dataset included 299 paramedic cases and about 10 times in control, and 57 EMD cases and around 10 times this in controls as well. Now, this dataset really allows us to conduct robust statistical analysis to identify the key risk factors for compromised mental wellness in EMS professionals. This is the distribution of mental health diagnosis among the 299 paramedics identified as cases in our dataset. Paramedics who receive coverage were divided in two categories. Work-related coverage, meaning you submit your claim and to this governmental institution in Quebec that decide that, yes, they believe that your condition is work-related. And these cases were directly linked to occupational stress and trauma. So we had about 20% of all cases were post-traumatic stress disorder, and we have 41 cases that were stressor-related disorders. Depression disorders were also a lot among the diagnoses. Anxiety disorders had 2 cases. So if we look at the sick leave coverage, this is where you have a claim, maybe you submit it to the government and they say, no, we don't believe it's work-related, but your answers will cover it. And we have to be careful into this interpretation, because it's not because you submit it and to the government and they rejected the application as work-related that is not work-related. The criteria has changed. The study was we're using data from 2015 to 2022. And during that time, the definition of the criteria changed. So something that was rejected in 2015 could have been accepted in 2020. So we didn't want to say we're just going to focus on work-related coverage because of that change in definition. But even for sick leave, you can see that stressor-related disorder is a big chunk of all the cases. Depression disorders also are represented. Less anxiety disorder and other condition. The key takeaway there is that stress-related disorder represent the vast majority of cases, 59% of them. And the PTSD is still significant at 20%. It's like 1 in 5 paramedics will be diagnosed with PTSD in that pool. But the exposure to chronic stress is really what's causing a big toll on paramedics based on this data. If we look at the dispatcher side, what we're seeing is 57 EMDs were identified as cases for our data set. And the vast majority there also were stress-related disorders. So again, chronic exposure to stress is what really causing the majority of mental health disorder among EMDs. So who is more at risk? Because it's nice to have the data, but what we're trying to do is to have an idea of who we should focus more and what we should do to help them. Our analysis found that young, female, and inexperienced EMS professionals are going to restart this. So young, female, and inexperienced paramedics were at the highest risk of compromised mental wellness. So key risk factors include high workload, night shift, and exposure to pediatric emergencies. This is in addition with what is already written in the scientific literature, but it's still important to see that in our own data set. And it wasn't only those factors, but they were the strongest And we have many more other factors that was also associated with those, well, like I said, the strongest. So this insights, could help us really target high-risk individuals for early intervention by knowing this. When you're looking at EMDs, you have the same kind of pattern. Young, inexperienced, female, and that was exposed to high workload, night shift, pediatric patients. So using all this information, the next step was really to ask ourselves how we can predict burnout before it even happens. And by using machine learning techniques, we really develop predictive models that assess mental wellness indicators in real time. We tested five models were tested, and the best one was selected for the paramedic and EMD respectively. And it's really exciting to obtain this level of performance for the model. I put on the slide the fact that when you are between 0.8 and 0.9 is very good. That's been a strong ability to discriminate. So the benefits there is to really say, if you can use those models, that's mean you can reduce the workload burden that you could have put on human resources department if every worker needed to fill that MALASH burnout inventory. You can actually use the everyday data available within your system and predict who is at higher risk of developing any mental disorder. So at this point, it's really, really great. I was really happy. The whole team were happy. But if we want to go even further, I'm just going to give information on the slide and then comment. So on the left, we have the receiver operating characteristic curves for the paramedic and EMD models, both built using the random forest technique. So the paramedic model achieved a AUC of 0.861, indicating a strong predictive accuracy. The EMD model performed similarly well with an AUC of 0.879. So this value really confirms that our models can effectively distinguish between high risk and low risk individuals. On the right, what we see is the Shapley additive explanations value plots, which really help us understand how different features impact the model predictions. Each dot represents an individual data point showing the influence of various factors on the risk score. So the key insight from the SHAP value really, how can I summarize that? I would say that it's nice to know that you are high risk, but what is really good to know at this point is what contribute to that prediction, what actually weighed in your own situation. If on an individual level, you want to know, is it because that person was doing a lot of overtime? Is it because that person was exposed to too many patients in really bad shape? Is it, obviously the answer will be a combination of that, but if you want to intervene, you have to know what are the contributing factors to this prediction. And the SHAP value is really useful in that sense. Now is the moment that you have access to what those models look like in a monitoring tool, meaning a risk prediction tool. This is an overview of the dashboard within the Preburn risk prediction tool. What you're seeing there is a view that gives you information about your own system, the proportion of employee with low risk, high risk, who is on sick leave, and overhaul the situation in terms of historical data and workload indicators. So you really have access to real-time risk level, and it's user-friendly. I believe this view, this overview within the tool allow you to have a sense of what is happening currently. And this is a view that you can share with HR, but you can also share with your personal side of your organization. I believe that, for example, if I have to give a quick example, if you implement a new procedure, a new operational procedure, and after several weeks, you realize that there is a decrease in terms of the number of low-risk workers, and you're seeing an increase in high risk, maybe you have some question to ask. Maybe this operational procedure is stressing them too much in a way, or have over impact that you didn't see within the operational data, but on the mental side of things, it's not helping. It's actually represent a heavy burden. I just making that up right now, but my position with that is good to have an idea of what is happening mentally for your staff. If you look at the view that provide individual level, this slide really provide an overview of the pre-burn risk prediction dashboard for one employee. And in terms of key feature of the dashboard, you can see real-time burnout risk assessment. So on top left, you can see a display of the mental wellness score that indicate if the person is at low risk, moderate, or high risk, or extremely high risk. You can track risk evolution over time, so that can help the organization to identify trends and potential deterioration in mental health. We also provide wellness team with early warning signal, so they can intervene before burnout becomes severe if that person is in that path. So the dashboard really integrates computed variable such as overtime hours, shift type, workload indicator. You will have a portrayal of who is that person in terms of intervention and in terms of mental health. So if I'm a therapist and I have to meet Joanne, and I'm going to look at this dashboard and have an idea, okay, the past 3 weeks or 6 months, Joanne was working a lot of night shifts and she was doing a lot of overtime. And in terms of patient encounters, she had really a lot of heavy calls in terms of a lot of cardiac arrest, a lot of suicide attempt, a lot of car accident, but with a lot of urgent transport mode calls. It gives you an idea of who this person is in terms of operational side of things. And because of the prediction, you can see that compared to the control, so low risk workers, she saw signs that push the risk prediction to say, you need to look at Joanne a little bit more and maybe do something. This view, according to me, should be reserved to only people working in the wellness program, because the information is sensitive and you don't want a supervisor, I believe, you don't want a supervisor to come in and say, oh, Joanne, are you okay? Because your data shown that it doesn't seem right. That something's going on with you. We need to go and sit down and have a pet talk or something, because the machine is telling me you're not doing well at all. I don't think this is the best approach, to be honest. I'm not saying every supervisor are like that. This is not what I'm saying. But I believe that somebody who have training in psychology is better to approach that person and start a conversation. And they know what to do and how to do it. So leave it to professional. So everybody has their stand. Oh, well, you understand the idea. So I believe really that this view is really better in the end of specialists in mental health. One question that you might have is, okay, but how do I use this? Right now, we use it where you basically go and upload, the data within the tool. So you can be a CSV file, an Excel file that contain the indicators that is required by the tool. So the work schedule, call history, workload matrix, employee experience, and all of that. And you upload it within the tool. And it's a step-by-step approach. It guides you to make sure that you do it properly. And as soon as you upload the information, you have the prediction, you have the graphs, you have the information about every single employee that you put the information in. So I wouldn't say easy peasy, because you still have to gather the information, but you can decide within your organization to actually connect the tool directly to the server who have the information, and it will be really in real time. It's just because we did that version, we can upload the file. So it's nice to have all of this, but the real thing is, how do you put that in the real world? And we believe that implementing predictive tools can really lead to significant benefits, including reduced burnout rates, increased staff retention, and improved patient care quality. And I think that every organization can integrate this insight to their HR wellness program to foster a healthier work environment. The tool is a tool, but you need to have a structure around it to make sure that it will actually give you the benefits that you're looking for. In terms of barriers, because the world is not perfect, despite its benefits, implementing predictive mental health strategies you will face challenges because you need to have the data available. Like I said, we didn't use any variables that is out of ordinary, but you still need to have the information available. You need to fight the stigma around psychological health because there are some generation that to talk about mental health, they still at the point where they'll say it's just part of the job. Just take it in, move on, keep going. So you have a communication plan that have to be there to make sure that the person understand. You cannot just take care of your body. You need to take care of your head as well, because if the head ain't working, trust me, the body is not going to work either. So it's important to work on both. And you also will have to face ethical concern regarding privacy. This is why I'm like, don't put the tool in the end of the team leader that will say, hey, Josie, the tool is telling me that you're not doing right today in front of everybody. That person doesn't need that. Nobody wants that, actually. That would be terrifying. This is not the purpose of the tool. So it's important to work on the absentence also from the EMDs and the paramedics. But the more you communicate the information and make sure that they will understand how you're going to use it, the better you will have them for that kind of approach. So it's important to address them as well. The next step is really scaling predictive model across different EMS services. This is possible. We develop it within one institution. It's important to test with data from other institutions as well. But it's also important to integrate the tool within a structure, workforce management, but also have policy changes that will help provide the support and initiate a special program for every person. I have my own vision of this, and this is what I call for now my Protect Wellness Program, where what I propose to do is the Protect Wellness Program is to serve as the foundation for the follow-up study of the Preburn study. The program is structured around 7 components. Predict risk. This is what we're doing with the Preburn risk detection tool. To recognize early signs, it's important to monitor constantly what's happening so you act before things escalate. To offer support, you want to implement structured intervention plans to assist affected workers. You want to train and educate as well, because if you don't train them and educate them, it's difficult to develop that resilience you're looking for. You want to engage professionals. Everybody have a role to play. Psychologists, you want therapists, you want wellness expert. I'm a former EMD. I'm doing research now, but I'm not a therapist. I'm not a person that can provide all those answers and those plans. So you need to have those professionals involved. You want customized action plans, because you want to tailor your intervention based on individual risk levels. When they are low risk, it doesn't mean you have nothing to do. You can just give them more tools and act on prevention. When they show moderate signs of mental disorders, you want to make sure that they will have maybe 10 encounters with a therapist to talk with them and to interview. You want to track progress as well to adjust. And this is an approach that really target being proactive to manage the risk, the crisis, if there is one, but really focus on early detection and prevention. And this program is simple to implement. This is a 5-step strategy that can be implemented, and I believe this is what we should focus on after finalizing the development of the tool. So I want to finish by summarize what we learned today. And in summary, we know that EMS professionals face significant mental health risks due to their demanding work environment. The Preburn Project really demonstrates how predictive modeling can help identify and support at-risk individuals and ultimately reducing burnout and improving workforce resilience. This is really what we want to do. So thank you for your time and attention. I appreciate your interest in this important topic. And if you ever think about suicide or you need to talk, there is help available. You can call 988 24/7. It's toll free. You can never say it too much. There is help. Don't do anything, just call. And for me today, if you have any question, feel free to ask now, or you can reach out to me via email. My email is on the slide. Thank you very much.
Wow, I gotta say that is one of the most important presentations I've seen in a really long time.
Oh,
Super,
thank you.
super, super impressed.
I'm going to stop the sharing so I can see you.
Yeah, it was wonderful. I did have one question. I'll jump in. I'll take kind of like a host prerogative here for a second. In your PowerPoint slides, you referred to a count of interventions, and I wasn't sure what you meant by interventions in the context of those slides for things you were monitoring. If that meant calls or somebody actually interacting with the paramedic or the EMD.
I missed the beginning. I'm sorry, I had a glitch. I missed the beginning of your question. Can you just repeat, please?
Oh, sure. In your several of your slides, you referred to a count of interventions for both paramedic, field providers and EMDs, and I didn't know what you meant by interventions. If I think of intervention as somebody intervening into the work, but I didn't know if you meant calls or what interventions meant. I'm sorry if I missed that.
So it's if you're talking about EMDs, you're talking about calls. If you're talking to paramedics, it's about patient encounters. So when they go and take care of a patient, my deviation there is to say intervention in a way that they're going to take care of a patient.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. What other questions do we have? You can either raise your hand and the system will keep track of the order that they're raised, and we can unmute you, or you can unmute yourself, or you can type them in the chat and we'll try to navigate through this. Super exciting. So it looks like we've got Justin has raised his hand first. And Justin, if you want to unmute yourself and ask the question, that's great.
Merci. Bonjour Thérésa et félicitations, c'est vraiment, vraiment bon travail. Actuellement, je n'ai pas une question pour vous, but I just want to say, I really love this. I love how you're taking data that paramedic services have, that you're doing robust statistical modeling, and you're turning that into something that is so incredibly useful. The only reason I wanted to say it here is just to really stress that point. Like, usually it's through surveys, usually it's through other data, but the fact that you're developing this tool such that paramedic service leaderships can have real-time situational awareness on the health of their workforce on an organizational level, but then also intervene on an individual, it's incredibly powerful. Merci beaucoup.
Merci, Justin. Thank you so much for that. It was really important from the get-go for the Preburn Project that it is not an additional task for the paramedics or the EMD. We all have enough on our plate and even over our plate that if you want to act of mental health, it cannot only based, according to me, on filling more forms. Especially if you want to track your mental well-being, you cannot ask them every 3 weeks or 1 month. At the end, you will start having forwards. You just put X all over it just to be done with it. So the Preburn Project, by using data that every organization already have, is able to leverage this information into prediction without any intervention in terms of any extra work. So thank you, Justin, for pointing that out. Thank you.
Let's see. Marty Scott has your hand up. Go ahead, Marty.
Thank you, Todd. Theresa, what a tremendous presentation. Thank you so much. And I think you've confirmed one other thing I've heard throughout my life is if you come up with a great idea, somebody's already doing it. We actually had a hallway discussion about this in Alberta here about last week, and it's just amazing to see this so far advanced. So thank you for this work. The one area that I'm interested in is I think about application of this tool, and you touched on it quite well when you indicated that you felt a wellness team should have access to this information to interact with the staff. I certainly appreciate that rub that may happen with supervisors, and further the requirement for paramedics to have right to some level of privacy because it dances with their own health. What I'm curious about, and if I missed it, I apologize. Did you examine any sort of benefit or contemplation of this dashboard or alike being available to the paramedic or the ECO themselves so they can monitor their own mental health, create their own self-care plan? Just curious if you looked at it from that perspective.
Thank you. That's a great question. It's a valid point. I'm in between two tough because of that. On one side, I want to make sure that the same information we have on them, that they have access to it. In terms of privacy, I think they shouldn't be blindsided by the information. On the other hand, I'm just thinking, if you didn't receive any training or education about it, and you're not feeling well, and the machine is telling you you're not feeling well, how are you going to handle it? And this is where I have to pause and say, what is the best approach? I don't think I have the right answer. I think I need to have discussion with therapists and see if you give them access, how are you going to give them access to the information? If the risk prediction tool is saying that you are at low risk, and you receive at the same time an email, for example, giving you the best things that you should do to take care of yourself in the meantime in terms of prevention, you will receive the information well. If you receive, you are at high risk right now, we think something is going on, I believe this kind of information need to be delivered by someone and not by a machine. It's in terms of approach, and I still have more thinking to do about it, but it's a valid point. They need to have the information, but it's the how.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great. And Walter, your hand is up next.
Thérésa, good to see you. Thank you for a fantastic presentation. I've had the pleasure of hearing you speak a few times now, and love it every time. And it just keeps getting better and better. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask you, there's a room full of leaders here who often have to, balance the pressures of, managing a system and the operational part of it all, the expectations of the public and so on, against the health of their staff. And so I wondered if you could, maybe pinpoint one of the tensions of this operations and health dynamic that, they can think about, or we can all think about, that would allow us to make changes, almost immediately.
Thank you for the question. It's a great question as well. The first thing I will say is, can we talk about it? Because in some organization, we don't want to talk about it. It's like still a taboo. And I think at this point, make it conversational. Talk about it. When you ask, how are you doing today? Mean it, really. This is the first, I would say, put a culture shift within your organization to make mental health the first topic of the day. Yes, there is calls waiting. Well, there is all of that, but are you okay today? That will be a beginning, because most workers often feel like they are not valued. They are not being seen. After that, I will say, do you have anything in place in terms of peer support? At Urgence Santé, we have a peer support programs where you had a call or an intervention, or mentally you feel like you're struggling. There are peers, paramedics or EMDs that come and can talk to you and have like the beginning of a first psychological first aid. I think this is a good way to go as well. And it's not like you're hiring a therapist. There are formation now, the training now available for those person, maybe to implement that, to have the peer support. Did I answer the question properly?
You did. Yes. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. That is just Wonderful stuff. Janelle, I'm going to go ahead and have you start. I'm going to share my screen for a PowerPoint for the next of these webinars and put that on as well. But please go ahead, Janelle.
Sure, sounds good. I just thought I'd just jump in just to add a little bit to the context to that. So in actually Alberta Health Services, that the peer support program is something that we are running. So we do utilize the psychological first aid model, and we are a team of peers, shared commonalities, like experience, everything that are there to help provide supports to our colleagues in their time of need, whether it be for personal or life stressors or factors out or inside of work. We've seen great development and progress in our program. So it's something that we are implementing here, and we've seen great success with it so far. So I just thought I'd share that.
And thank you, Janelle, for this. It's really important because I believe I can't remember exactly how many years we have it. It's over 6 years. And from the start, it was a success. And if your organization do not have it, I encourage you to go down this path because the workers like it. We don't have any issue of privacy or anything like that. Everything is respectful and it make a difference. And every worker feels seen, valued, because if they have needs, they have somebody right there that can come and talk to them. Not tomorrow, not in 3 days, not on a waiting list, but right now on your shift. Because on every shift, there are peer support EMDs or paramedics available. So I'm glad that you have it. And if you can encourage other organizations to do the same, please go ahead and do it.
Great. That's just wonderful. Well, I can't thank you enough. I know everybody here is just as excited as I am about this. Just fantastic work. I will definitely echo Justin's comment about using data that's available for most folks to do this job. I'm going to have to be bothering you afterwards to learn more about which factors made the most difference in the study, because some will be harder to get than others. But I think this is really tremendous work. And, Kevin, I think it could be a really interesting Chiefs project to consider really just going forward across the country. It's could make a giant difference.
Absolutely, Todd. I was thinking the same thing. And Thérésa, thank you so much. I mean, this is hits the mark in what we're attempting to do as an association, and certainly highlighting the importance of this with our clinicians and our providers, our EMDs. Just can't say enough. So, Todd, I agree. More to come. But Thérésa, thanks again.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
We are lucky to have you. Thanks, everybody. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.